Okay, we'll make a start. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending today's webinar in connection with Haringey Council's draft local plan. My name is Bryce. I am the head of spatial planning at Haringey, so I have overall responsibility for the local plan. I'm pleased to give you an update today on a couple of key sections in the draft local plan. Number one being the spatial strategy, and number two being the plan's housing policy. So I aim to give you an overview and a presentation over the next 20 to 30 minutes, and then there'll be an opportunity to ask any questions. So you can direct these during, while I'm speaking. If you want to put those in the question and answer, I'll address them at the end, or alternatively, if you feel comfortable, then you can unmute yourselves and ask the questions yourselves. Just to let you know, today's meeting is being recorded, and the principal purpose for that is so that we can post the meeting online afterwards for people to watch back, or for people to watch who haven't had the opportunity to attend today. So if you bear with me, I will just get moving with my slideshow now. So the three things I intend to cover today is number one, a background and overview of the draft local plan. So this won't be as detailed as it has been at some of the other local plan sessions, but nevertheless, I think it's important to set the scene. The second thing I'll do is to provide you with an overview of the draft local plan's spatial strategy. And this is about addressing the big questions of the plan. What development will be permitted? What won't be permitted? Where will it be permitted? Where won't it be permitted? When will it be permitted? And how will it be permitted? And then what I'll then do is address the plan's housing policies. So these cover important things like how many homes the plan seeks to deliver, and the types of homes the plan seeks to deliver in terms of market homes, affordable homes, the size of homes, and things like that. So that's what I aim to cover today. Just a very quick recap on the local plan itself. Well, why is it important? It's important because it's the main planning document used to determine plan applications in Haringey. So whether we have a proposal for a rear extension to a home, for a new piece of infrastructure, or a scheme of 3,000 homes in North Tottenham, and the local plan is our first port of call when it comes to determining that application. So that's why it's important. And it's also important because it's one of the key tools the council has to achieve its strategic aspirations. So one of the council's key aspirations at the moment is about helping to address the housing crisis. So the housing policies in the draft local plan, which I'll cover today, are one of the really important ways the council can help to address that challenge. Why are we preparing a new local plan? Well, our current local plan dates to 2017, so we are at the point now where it needs to be updated. A lot has changed since 2017, and I don't think it goes further enough to address some of the key challenges the borough faces, including the housing crisis and the linked homelessness crisis. So that's why we are doing this now. There's a bit of a process to creating a new local plan, as you'll probably be aware. I always say that it's an endurance event rather than a sprint. We had an extensive consultation about 4 years ago, which has informed the draft local plan that we've published now. The draft local plan is out for consultation until the end of December, the 19th of December. Really keen to get your views and your feedback on the draft local plan to see whether we've got the policies and proposals right, or whether we do need to change those. So what we'll do at the end of the draft local plan consultation period is we'll assess all of the feedback, and then what we'll do is we'll then prepare a plan called the proposed submission plan. And this is effectively the version of the plan that the council wants to adopt. We'll then have a further consultation where there'll be an opportunity for anyone who objects to policies or proposals in the plan to let us know what they object to. Then that plan, together with any objections or representations, will be forwarded to a planning inspector appointed on behalf of the government. Then they'll carry out an examination in public to assess the extent to which the plan is sound or not. And if the plan is found sound, then only then will the council be able to proceed to adopt the plan. So the draft local plan itself, it's been approved by the council's cabinet for consultation, hence this webinar today and other associated webinars. The plan has not been cooked up by planning officers alone in a dark corner of the council offices. It's been heavily informed by the views of residents and communities and by a range of other stakeholders. So it's been heavily influenced by prior engagement. And I think the key thing to note about the current plan that we've got is the 2017 plan is fairly narrowly focused on growth. So about the number of new homes, the amount of new employment floor space that we deliver in the borough. And actually this new draft local plan has got an entirely different focus, and it's much more holistic in its presentation and in its policies, and it seeks to deliver placemaking, and placemaking is set out comprehensively within the first 5 or 6 chapters of the draft local plan. So in terms of how the draft local plan is structured, so we've got the first section of the plan, part 1, which is around placemaking in Haringey. So this is about setting out what we mean by placemaking. It's about setting out a spatial vision for Haringey. What do we want Haringey to look like in the future? And it's about a spatial strategy which supports the delivery of that spatial vision. It's then got part 2, which contains 11 separate chapters on 11 neighbourhoods in the borough. And for each of those neighbourhoods, there's a strategy, there's a vision, first of all, there's a strategy to deliver the vision, policies to deliver the vision, and a series of site allocations. And then the third part of the plan is a series of thematic chapters covering things like housing, which I'll address today, and other topics like climate change, like employment, like town centres, like greener infrastructure, etc. So that's the structure of the plan. Today, we're going to focus on the spatial strategy, which is in part 1 of the plan, and the council's or the plan's housing policies, which are in part 3 of the plan. So just a quick overview of this spatial vision. And the spatial vision is essentially trying to map out what we, the council and its stakeholders, residents, community, businesses and other stakeholders want the borough to look like in 2042. And it's 2042 because the plan is covering a 15-year period, and that 15-year period will run from 2027 to 2042. And the spatial vision is that the borough is made up of a series of places where everyone can belong and thrive. And that idea of places where everyone can belong and thrive comes from the council's 2035 vision, which it adopted earlier this year. And the idea of the spatial vision is that all development that comes forward, big or small, contributes to a fair, healthy, safe, resilient and sustainable borough. And that's for current residents and for future residents. And the way that we plan to achieve that is working in collaboration and in partnership with our local communities and stakeholders. So that is the overarching spatial vision. And alongside that is a placemaking framework. So 2 things just to note in relation to this slide. The first one is that placemaking is not being seen necessarily as an outcome, it's a process. So it's something the council will look to together with its residents and communities. And in relation to the council's placemaking framework, which is shown on the right-hand side of the slide in a fairly fancy diagram, one of the key elements of that framework is about delivering homes for the future. So this is homes that residents and communities in the borough need now and in the future. So homes is a big part of that placemaking framework that's set out at the start of the draft local plan. So I'll just quickly check the question and answer function in Teams. Looks like we've got no questions for the time being. So what I'll do now is I will proceed to address the spatial strategy of the draft local plan. Any questions on the way along, please do pop them into the question and answer function, and I'll pick them up at the end of this section. So first of all, what is a spatial strategy? Not everyone knows, and it is a bit of planning jargon. So I just want to be clear on what it is and what it isn't. So what a spatial strategy is, it's an overall vision for how an area will develop in the future. So the spatial strategy in the draft local plan is an overall vision for how Haringey will develop in the future. And it's important because it guides the location, scale and type of development for things like housing and infrastructure. So if I had to describe the spatial strategy even more simply than that, it is a strategy which addresses the following questions: the what, the where, the when and the how. So in relation to the what, it's what development will the council support in Haringey in the future, and also crucially, what won't it support? It's about where development will be supported in the borough in the future, and where it won't be supported. It's about when will development be supported and when won't development be supported. So this is particularly thinking about timing and about the provision of infrastructure to support new development. And then lastly, it's about how development will be delivered in the borough in the future. So what will it look like? How will it be designed, etc., etc. So that's what is a spatial strategy. Now, we already have a spatial strategy for Haringey, and that is set out in our existing 2017 local plan that some of you may be familiar with. So a couple of points to note quickly on that. So the first thing is that it's fairly narrowly focused around growth. By growth, I mean new homes and new employment floor space. So it's not necessarily that holistic what we have at the moment as a council. And what it seeks to do in very simple terms is to maximise development and density in key areas of the borough. And that's to reduce pressure on more suburban areas of the borough and areas of the borough where there might be reasons why you wouldn't want development, for instance, open space or heritage designations. So what it does is it identifies growth areas in the borough. So these are areas with the greatest capacity for change. These are indicated on the slide in the dark blue. So you're principally looking at Tottenham, North Tottenham, Tottenham Hale, District Centre and Wood Green. So these are areas with the greatest capacity for growth. And then the spatial strategy also identifies areas of change. And these are areas where there's considerable potential for growth, albeit on a lesser scale than those growth areas, which I've just mentioned. So those areas of change are indicated in the purple colour on the map. I think what you can see straight away from the map is that the map doesn't have a lot to say about large portions of the borough outside of Tottenham and Wood Green. So it's got limited localised visions. So that's where we're at the moment. Now, I'm just going to explain where we are seeking to move to in the draft local plan, first of all, and then I'll provide a bit more detail about exactly how we intend to get there. So you'll see on this slide that it looks fairly drastically different from the one I showed on the previous slide. And this is because we're moving from a focus on growth and how we accommodate new homes and employment floor space to what we're describing as a more localised and holistic process of placemaking. So that's what we're aiming to do. And that's why a far greater proportion of the borough on this map, on this slide, is shown in either the purple colour or in the Haringey salmon pink colour. So how have we arrived at this spatial strategy? It's been a bit of a process. So it's been informed by engagement, what people, residents and communities have told us, but it's also been informed by evidence base, and there's a comprehensive evidence base to support the draft local plan. Particularly, it's been informed by a bit of work looking at design and character across the borough, and we've got many varied types of design and character across the borough. And we've used that as a kind of starting point for thinking about, well, what areas of the borough could potentially accommodate new homes and employment floor space in the future. Then what we've also done at the same time, laid on top of that, is to look at, okay, well, what are the opportunities to deliver positive placemaking in the borough in the future? So where are there opportunities to improve the historic environment, to enhance the quality of our open spaces, to improve the public realm, to improve walking and cycling connections? And then what we've done is we've looked at the character and those opportunities, and we've come up with a series of designations around the placemaking potential. And we've called these placemaking focus areas. And these are the areas of the borough in the future where we think there are the greatest opportunities for placemaking. And those are the areas, going back one slide, indicated on this diagram here in the purple and in the Haringey salmon pink. So this is really a one-slide overview of the spatial strategy, but the idea is that growth and investment in the borough will be focused in the placemaking focus areas we've identified. So it won't be exclusively within these placemaking focus areas, but it will be principally within those. So these are within transform areas, and these areas with the greatest placemaking potential in the borough where we expect significant change to take place. So these are locations like Wood Green Metropolitan Centre, North Tottenham, around the stadium and the land to the west of the stadium, in Tottenham Hale District Centre and some other parts of South Tottenham. So those are the areas where there is opportunity for really transformative change. What we then have are what we've described as enhanced areas, and these are broadly drawn areas, locations with moderate to high placemaking opportunities. So the scale of change that we would expect to take place within these areas is not as big as within transform areas. It's going to be more incremental, and the extent and nature of the change is going to vary depending on local context and opportunities. But what I can say is that development will continue to be prioritised in Wood Green and Tottenham. This is because this is where the greatest opportunities are for placemaking, and because the character allows for greater levels of development. But development will also be prioritised in our town centres and other accessible locations, including town centres in the west of the borough as well, places like Crouch End District Centre, Muswell Hill District Centre. And crucially as well, development will be coordinated with infrastructure delivery. So it's really important that development takes place where there is the best infrastructure, and that where development is brought forward, that it is supported by additional infrastructure as well to support the needs of residents and communities. But crucially, spatial strategy is not just about new homes. It's also about meeting a range of other needs, including needs for employment, needs for town centre, and other uses such as retail. A big focus of the plan is on intensification and renewal of employment land. What we do know is over the last 20 years, we've lost a lot of employment land. So we need to protect our employment land to a greater extent than we have done in the past. But we also know that our employment land needs to work harder to provide an uplift in jobs. So it provides more opportunities and better opportunities for our residents. So that is a key focus. And then just in relation to our town centres, we all know and recognise that town centres are changing. They're no longer narrowly focused around shops and retail. And we need to respond positively to that. What the spatial strategy envisages is a continued diversification of our town centres, but crucially, I think there's an opportunity for our town centres to accommodate more employment. National planning policy does allow for offices and light industrial as default uses within town centres. So we want our town centres to continue to support jobs and to support a greater number of jobs in the future. And then lastly, we want a spatial strategy that protects the borough's natural and historic environment. We've got brilliant assets in terms of conservation areas, listed buildings, in terms of metropolitan open land, and some of our other open spaces and some of our nature conservation areas. So it's really important that that's protected from development as we move forward. So that was a very high level overview of the spatial strategy. As I say, a strategy is just an overview. The detail sitting behind the spatial strategy sits within the neighbourhood chapters of the draft local plan. So there are 11 neighbourhood chapters. Neighbourhoods are set out on the slide here. I'd really encourage you, if you haven't done already, to take a detailed look at those neighbourhood chapters. And what you'll find within each of those neighbourhood chapters is a vision. So this slide shows Wood Green. So for Wood Green neighbourhood, there's a comprehensive vision for Wood Green. There's a policy for Wood Green that will be used to assess all plan applications that come forward in Wood Green in the future. And then there's a series of placemaking focus areas identified within Wood Green, shown on the image on the left of the slide. And then the neighbourhood chapters drill down to the individual placemaking focus areas. So the focus area shown on the middle picture is Wood Green Central. So this is the bus garage in Wood Green and the council offices to the south of that. And there is a specific strategy for each of these placemaking focus areas with initiatives to support placemaking. And then within the placemaking focus areas, there are a series of site allocations, and the site allocations set out specifically and in detail the parameters for the redevelopment or development of these sites, should they come forward in the future. So that is a very quick overview of the spatial strategy. Great. So housing policies. So there's a comprehensive housing chapter in the local plan. It's chapter 25. If you haven't had a look already, I'd urge you to have a read, or at least to view the summary that's available on the dedicated consultation website. The first policy in the housing chapter is, I think, policy H1 it's called. It's about meeting housing needs. So it sets at high level what the council is aiming to do. So the council does want to work with stakeholders and partners to make use of the full capacity for housing in the borough. And particularly, this council has the aim of significantly increasing the supply of new homes in the borough. So we want to deliver effectively as many new homes as we can in an acceptable manner and in the right places. And that's to meet the evidence needs of our residents and communities. So we do know that the need for new housing is very high. Now, what we seek to do as a minimum is to deliver the housing targets set in the London Plan. So the London Plan sets out housing targets for each London borough, and it sets out that boroughs should seek to meet those as a minimum. So as it currently stands, Haringey's housing target set in the London Plan is 1,592 homes a year. So over 10 years, the target is close to 16,000 new homes. So this plan is planning to deliver for 16,000 new homes over the 10-year period 2027 to 2036, and that is as a minimum. What we also know is that the government is requiring London to deliver far more homes in the future. So that housing target of 1,600 homes a year, give or take, is going to increase at some point in the future. So it's expected next year that there'll be a draft London Plan published at some point in the spring, and that will set out new housing targets or proposed new housing targets for London boroughs. And I would expect that Haringey's increases from 1,600 to something a bit higher. Now, 1,600 homes a year is a big number. It's a tough challenge to deliver. How are we going to do that? Well, there's a variety of things that we'll be doing, but principally we'll be taking as many opportunities as we can to deliver new homes on brownfield lands. So where we do have previously developed sites, we'll be seeking to deliver and really optimise the delivery of homes on those sites. We'll be seeking to realise the plan's spatial strategy. So these areas I've outlined today in terms of transform areas and enhance areas, we will be looking very closely at the amount of new homes that they can deliver, but particularly we'll be looking very closely at the transform areas, so areas in Wood Green, in North Tottenham and in Tottenham Hale, because these are where the biggest opportunities are to deliver new homes. We'll also be seeking to bring forward the development of allocated sites. So these are sites that we put a red line around in the local plan, and we say that the council will support development on these sites, and we set out parameters around that. So I think there's about 125 site allocations in the draft local plan. If you're interested in a specific area of the local plan, please do dive into those neighbourhood chapters, which I've mentioned previously. It's not just about housing on big sites, it's also about housing on medium and small sites. So the council does expressly support development on small sites and medium sites as well. But crucially, it's not just about the number of homes we deliver, it's about delivering the right mix of homes to meet the needs of our communities. And we've got fairly robust evidence around what that right mix of new homes is. We do know that we need to deliver as many genuinely affordable homes as possible, and I'll come on to that in a moment. And we also know that we need to deliver as many family homes as possible, because the great need in Haringey is for affordable homes, particularly social rent homes, and it's also for family-sized homes. So in terms of delivering the right mix of homes, as I've set on the slide here, all homes and all accommodation must be high quality. We want to maximise genuine affordable housing. We want to deliver an appropriate mix of housing sizes and types with priorities for families. And we want to prioritise conventional homes, so homes are built for sale or rent, over things like student accommodation or co-living, which I'll also come on to shortly. So genuine affordable housing, what's the council seeking to do in this plan? Well, the aspiration, and this is a high-level aspiration, is that 50% of all new homes that get delivered in Haringey will be genuinely affordable. So how will we aim to do this? Well, first of all, the council's delivering homes of its own, and the council will, over the next 10 years, deliver thousands of new council homes. We'll work actively with registered providers. So formerly these were called housing associations. We'll work actively with them to help them deliver on land that they own or that they might acquire. And then we'll also seek to maximise the delivery of affordable housing in private housing developments. So where developers are coming forwards to deliver new housing schemes, we'll seek to deliver as many affordable homes within those as possible. In terms of the last point around private housing developments, we will be seeking that schemes of 10 homes or more will deliver 40% affordable housing on site. So if it's 100 units, we would expect as a starting point that they deliver 40 of those 100 homes as affordable housing. We would expect that those affordable homes are delivered on site, and affordable homes off site, or money that a developer gives us instead of delivering affordable homes, will only be acceptable in exceptional circumstances. So in terms of those affordable homes that we ask private developers to deliver, we'd be asking for 70% of those to be low cost rent, and 30% to be intermediate. Now, the definitions around low cost rent and intermediate are a bit complicated, even for me who does this as a day job. But when we talk about low cost rent in the local plan, we are talking about homes rented on social rent levels. So these are the most affordable types of affordable home, and that's why we've got this real emphasis on genuinely affordable housing. So I've talked about the target for 10 homes, for schemes that deliver 10 homes or more. We don't currently ask for financial contributions from schemes of under 10 homes, but in the future we're proposing that we'd ask schemes of 5 to 9 homes to provide a financial contributions toward off-site affordable housing. And that money that we get from these schemes would help to fund and deliver the council's own council house building programme. And then lastly, just to say that affordable housing gets delivered in Haringey, we expect that there is, that's tenure blind, so it should be equivalent in siting appearance and layout to private housing. And in theory, you should not be able to tell the difference between a house that is a social rent home or a house that is a private home. Crucially, it should also have equivalent access to amenity and play space. So we should not be discriminating residents or children within those developments based upon what type of home it is. So in terms of housing mix, it's about the right mix of homes for our residents. So it's particularly about priority for homes suitable for families. And there is an expectation in the draft local plan that most schemes will deliver 30% of market homes and rented affordable homes as 3-bed homes, because we do know that that is where our major need is. And what we're also saying is that schemes with a concentration of 1-bed units, so really small flats, will not be acceptable. And even smaller units, so studios and bedsits, will only be permitted in Haringey in limited circumstances, because the overriding need is for larger properties. So when I talk about conventional homes, I'm primarily talking about homes for sale, so build for sale homes, but I'm also talking about build for rent homes. So build to rent homes have become quite popular in London in recent years. They're funded differently from build to sale homes. The London plan sets out in principle support for build to rent, and our London local plan reflects that. So it sets out support for build to rent developments or build to rent blocks within bigger schemes where these meet the definition in the London plan. And typically build to rent schemes must be 50 units or above. So they are typically large flatted blocks or schemes. And the only key difference between the London plan and our build to rent policy is that the London plan says affordable housing in build to rent developments should be rented properties. We want build to rent schemes in Haringey of a certain size to deliver social rent housing within separate blocks. So we want it to be social rent rather than a discount market rent. So small sites, I've already spoken about the fact that small sites are going to be a really important way for the council to meet its housing target over the next 10 years or so. The London plan, alongside setting us a housing target of 1,592 homes a year, sets us an annual target for small sites. So of the 1,592 homes a year that we're expected to deliver by the London plan, 260 of those a year should be on small sites. So the plan gives support for new homes on small sites where they are appropriately located. But there are some caveats around that. So proposals for small sites, they must be sensitively integrated into existing residential areas, and will not normally permit proposals for housing on private residential gardens, so protecting our really important garden land that provides an important biodiversity function and climate function. So just a couple of slides quickly on self-build and custom build. The government is really keen to support people who want to build their own home to do so. So the government supports in principle self-build and custom build. We don't get a lot of it in Haringey, but the plan does nevertheless support people who want to build their own home. Then we've got housing for older people and vulnerable people. We know that conventional homes are not suitable for everyone. And what the local plan aims to do is facilitate the provision of housing that meets the needs of older and vulnerable people. So this is a wide range of people and groups and to meet local need. The image on the slide here is a scheme in South Tottenham that the council delivered a number of years ago that provides accommodation for people who were formerly homeless. The crucial thing when we're looking at housing for older people and vulnerable people is that there's a need for the type of accommodation. That accommodation is suitable for the site where they want to develop that particular accommodation. The accommodation is well located, whether it's access to services, facilities and amenities, doctor's provision, etc. And that the accommodation that gets delivered is of high quality and meets best practice guidance. And the best practice guidance will change or will be determined based upon who the intended residents are. So it might be accommodation for people with dementia, in which case there's certain best practice guidance, or it might be guidance for people with other issues. And then lastly, just to say that we've got existing accommodation in the borough already for older and vulnerable people, and there's a principle in the draft local plan that this should be protected. This slide quickly is on something that's called co-living. This is becoming quite popular in London now because it's one of the very few housing products that are still viable. But this effectively is like student accommodation. It's accommodation with very small rooms, but with more generous community facilities. So you might only have a room with an ensuite. But there'll be communal cooking facilities in the building. There'll be communal gyms. There'll be perhaps a cinema room or communal workspace. Because we've got a shortage of land in Haringey to deliver new homes, what our plan says is that the supply of co-living, these schemes, plus the supply of student accommodation as well, should not compromise the delivery of conventional homes. So every time you choose to deliver a co-living scheme or a student accommodation scheme, there is a opportunity cost, which is that you can't deliver a conventional scheme with conventional affordable housing. So draft local plan therefore seeks to restrict the delivery of co-living and student accommodation so that opportunity cost is not too great for our residents and communities. So same principle for student accommodation. Gypsy and traveller accommodation. So the council is under a legal obligation to meet the housing needs of all our residents and communities, or seek to meet those needs. That includes gypsies and travellers. So the draft local plan seeks to meet the needs for our gypsy and traveller residents and communities because they do have specific accommodation needs. So in order to do that, it does a couple of things. The plan, it seeks to safeguard the 2 existing gypsy and traveller sites in the borough, one in Wood Green and one in Tottenham. And it also seeks to meet an identified need for at least 33 additional gypsy and traveller pitches over the next 6 or 7 years. So that is a figure which comes from a study that's recently been produced by the Greater London Authority. They've done a study across the whole of London to look at the gypsy and traveller needs of all London boroughs. How is the council going to aim to meet that gypsy and traveller needs? Well, the starting point is the council is going to seek to deliver new permanent gypsy and traveller sites on council-owned lands. And there has been consultation previously about a couple of sites in the east of the borough that might be suitable for gypsy and traveller accommodation. The council will continue to work with other stakeholders who may have land for gypsy and traveller accommodation in the borough. And if we get gypsy and traveller proposals that come forward in the borough, on sites we call windfall sites, then we'll support those providing certain criteria are met. And then I've got 2 slides left. So one slide on loss of existing housing. So we need more housing in the borough in the future rather than less. So we've got policies to protect existing housing, and we'll only support the loss of existing housing where there is an increase in housing as part of the same proposal. And then we've got a part of the policy which addresses the loss of affordable housing, and it sets out the only criteria or the only circumstances where the council will accept the loss of affordable housing. And that's where it's in accordance with the policy in the London Plan. And that's where that affordable housing that's lost is replaced by an equivalent or greater amount of affordable housing floor space, with an emphasis on achieving an uplift. And then just lastly, I've got a slide on residential conversions, setting out where the council will support the conversion of larger homes into smaller units. Often we get homes that get subdivided into a number of smaller flats. So there's parameters around where that will be acceptable. And we've got a substantially reinforced policy around houses in multiple occupation. So we know we've got large parts of the borough where we've got large amounts of houses in multiple occupation. So we've got a policy which seeks to restrict the further proliferation of houses in multiple occupation in certain parts of the borough, where on a given road or in a given ward, we've already got a lot of houses in multiple occupation, because we recognise that more people in the same amount of house effectively has impacts on a range of things, including quality of life for existing residents. So that is a very quick run through of the housing policies. And then just one last slide to say that, as you'll be aware, consultation is open at the moment. That closes on Friday, 19th of December. Very keen to get your thoughts and feedback on the draft local plan, on our spatial strategy, on our housing policies and all our other policies, so that we can kind of consider that feedback, absorb that feedback, and make any changes we need to make to the plan next year, so that the one we take forward is one that can be supported by as many of our residents as possible.